Hello, everybody. Welcome back. This episode of Pay It Forward, we are going to be talking about the AADSAS application, its sections, and the overview. So a little bit about myself. My name is Sameh Soliman. I'm a second-year dental student at ATSU, Arizona School of Dentistry. I run my channel on Instagram and YouTube called DentalLyfe. If you guys have been following, this is a series called Pay It Forward. So here's my contact information. And Sylvia, go for it.
Hi everyone, I'm Sylvia Carr and I'm also a D2 at ASDO. So I'm a classmate with Sameh. And here's also my contact information, my email, and so I attended UCI for undergrad and now I'm at ASDO.
And we have a note here, whatever presentation we provide you guys, pre-dents, these are our personal experience and it's not a guarantee that you're gonna get into dental school. It's more of a guide. So a lot of work was put into making these presentations. Follow it at your own discretion. All right, what is ADEA? What is AADSAS? So ADEA is American Dental Education Association, and AADSAS is the Associated American Dental School Application Service. It's basically a centralized online service where it basically has all the dental schools in the nation and you do the application on there. So the Texas has its own application portal, and I had to find out the hard way because I applied twice. And the first time that I applied to Texas. After a couple weeks, they sent me a secondary application, but it was actually a primary. So it's the equivalent of AADSAS. So I don't understand why you have to do it twice. So most of my presentations are not going to be discussing it because I didn't experience it personally. But there's a lot of information online and YouTube videos. You can look that up. And if you're an international dentist watching this, meaning you have your degree outside of the US and want to practice dentistry in the US, you can look up the CAAPID application. It's another portal for the 2-year international program for dentists practicing outside of the US. 3 general facts about the application cycle. So mid-May, the application's open. Early December, the acceptance is offered. So it's the first acceptance and it can go all the way up until the first week of school. So white coat ceremony. So I'm not saying it's impossible for that to happen. It's just the stars need to align. Early February is when the applications close. So if you're watching this in 2020, May 12th, so coming up, is going to be when the applications open. December 1st, 2020 is when the first acceptance is offered. And February 2nd, 2021 is when the portal closes. And at the bottom here, we have all of the contact information for ADEA. They have a plethora of information online. So make sure you guys check out their website. I think most of this presentation is complementary to what they have on their website. All right, so this is the ADEA website. That's how it looks like. So these screenshots were taken a couple days ago. That's why there is COVID-19 on it. A couple things that I want to point out is one of the resources that they have on there is called the Quick Guide PDF. A little bit of the presentation is taken from there. It's more of like a one sheet that has all the details. Check that out if you're barely starting the application, and it should guide you in the right direction.
Okay, so the 3 main components of your application. The first component would be like the application part of it. So that includes all your official like transcripts, obviously the letters of recommendation, and we're gonna go over that more in detail. And then it's the ADEA AADSAS, which verifies and calculates your GPA, because it does different GPAs. It does like a bio one, and it does like overall GPAs. So, and it adds your DAT score and everything like that. And then the dental schools would be the third part, because that's where like they receive your information, they look over it. There's like the supplemental or secondary applications. And then obviously there's the interview part after secondaries. And then there's the acceptance wait list or alternate list, and then the rejected list. So that's kind of how it goes. So the other thing that we should mention is when applying to dental school, there's something called the PAP program. The PAP program is a fee assistant program. So when applying to dental school, it can actually get really, really costly. I remember I actually looked back at how much I think everything cost me, and it was over $5,000. And that's just because the first application is $259, and then every additional application that you submit is $112. And just for an estimate, an average person usually applies to anywhere between 10 to 12 dental schools. So that can really add up. So with the FAP program, you get like $483 waived. So that's almost like $500, or it's an equivalent of the first application and an additional 2. So basically 3 dental schools get waived for free. So that can really help, save $500 right there. So it opens on May 12th, which is the same day as when the application opens. And I definitely recommend, if you want to apply, the earlier you apply, the better. Because the FAP program is open till February, but usually they run out of funds early. So the earlier you apply, the better chances of you getting it. And usually it takes them like 2 weeks to reply back to you if you got accepted or not. So apply early and hope for the best.
So I have a couple things to add to the FAP application. Here I have a screenshot of the document. So you're gonna see throughout the presentation, I have the little download emoji. So these are documents that I highly recommend you check out, download, and look over, because this presentation is just an overview. And we're gonna have supplemental videos for this video that goes in depth into some of these sections. So this document specifically talks about requirements to be qualified for this application. For example, like it has a table with like which tax bracket you belong to. So I would highly recommend downloading it and then see if you even qualify before doing the work. And for me, I was always late to submit this application. So I ended up paying the extra $500 that I could have saved if I were on time with the submissions and whatnot. I'm going to talk about 3 resources when applying to dental school. So one of my friends sent me this ADEA Go Dental virtual fair, and he's a pre-dental. So he was like, is this something that I should do? And I'm like, definitely. So me personally, I didn't know about it. So I actually registered today, and I registered as an advisor because I want to learn more about it. And I think it's going to help me make the future videos, because I want to cater it to the most recent application format and how it's done. So events, so there's a lot of events, and make sure that wherever events you attend, whether it's in person or nowadays virtually, make sure you ask a lot of questions, and because every question that you don't ask, you're gonna end up paying a price tag for it. So for me, like for the FAP, I didn't apply for it. I ended up paying an extra $500 that I could have easily saved. If your institution doesn't have a pre-dental club or a pre-dental society, who says you can't start one? So make sure if there's not a club there, make sure you start one. And when you fill out the application, this counts as leadership, and it actually shows that you took initiative to help other people down the line. So I highly encourage you attend this. I'll be there virtually. All right, so the second resource that I'm going to be talking about is the ADEA official guide to dental school. So this is basically your Bible, your Quran, your Torah, whatever you want to believe in. But I highly believe in this book because it helped me a lot. So basically it has information about all the schools in the US and in Canada, total of 76 schools. And basically it tells you about their statistics, their profile, their mission statement, and it's very school specific. So that's the book that is that they send in the mail. It's $40. But if you want to get a little bit more nifty and specific as far as like tuition and what the class size is and like how diverse a specific class at a specific school is, then I would recommend you go with the ADEA Dental School Explorer, because that has the search function. It's basically an app or a website that you log into, and you can control find and you can search whatever school you want or keywords that you want. So the book itself is $40, the bundle is $50, or the online resource is $25.
Okay, so now moving on to how the application looks. Once you go on the AADSAS website, this is the first page you're gonna see. So what you're gonna have to do first is register yourself. So you're gonna create a username and password, and then this is what you'll see every time you log back in to open up your portal. Okay, so then there's like 4 different things that you're going to see on the first page, one of them being the personal information, academic history, supporting information, and program materials. And we're going to discuss each one in depth and what you need to fill out.
So the personal information has 8 subsections. The academic history has 4 subsections. The supporting information has 5 subsections. And the program material is a big question mark because it all depends on how many schools you choose to apply for. So one specific thing that I'd like to point out is under the environmental factor is a disadvantage consideration or disadvantage statement. So it basically reads as, do you wish to be considered a disadvantaged applicant by any of your designated programs that may consider such factors? So social, economic, or educational. If yes, please answer the following question. Provide any information about your background that can help clarify your disadvantaged student status. So the reason why I highly recommend you writing a disadvantage statement is basically you elaborate on your personal statement. So your personal statement is the bread and butter of your entire application. And sometimes, like for me, I have a lot to share, and I felt like the personal statement constrained everything. I wanted to basically condense everything as much as possible in a 4,500 character count. So basically the disadvantage statement, I feel like it's basically the topping to your application, because for me, I came from Egypt as an immigrant, and we struggled for the first like 10 years that we were in the US. We were on food stamps, welfare, you name it. We were getting as much federal assistance as possible. And I'm not ashamed of it, and a lot of people are, but it's either between getting accepted or putting your pride aside. For me, I am proud, and this is me paying back and living the American dream, is giving back to the community that helped me get where I am. So like take a couple minutes to think about it. I know it's a lot of work because it's another 4,500 character count that you need to write and you need to edit and all that. A lot of schools look at it. I heard some schools don't really value it or are interested in reading it, but this application and this presentation is for all the schools. So the only thing that you should cater for every school is their secondary or supplemental application. The primary application should be generalized for all the schools. Hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, I wanted to add something too. I wanted to say that I too did write a disadvantage essay. And I think that if you do have a story to share or something that you do want to write about, don't feel ashamed, because I remember like when I was writing it, a lot of people told me why, or they weren't writing it. Don't compare yourself to others, and if you feel like you have something that you want to share, go for it and explain it. And you don't have to use all the characters, just explain what you need to explain. And it's not going to put you at an advantage or at a disadvantage for sharing this. It's just going to be something supplemental, so it can't hurt.
I couldn't agree more. All right, so some tips for your application readiness. So like I said, the personal information is 8 subsections, and basically keep your contact information updated, and please use professional emails. Okay, so don't use a sniper123, the same username that you use for your video games or whatever. That's very unprofessional. So make one, preferably using your first name and your last name. And I think that can stand out because you're going to get thousands of emails during this entire application process. And if you send a specific school or the application portal an email, or let's say the person that's writing your letter of recommendation, if I see Sniper123 emailing me, I'm definitely going to think it's spam. So it just delays everything. But if I know that 𝘍𝘰𝘳𝘸𝘢𝘳𝘥 is sending me this email, then I know that I need to answer the email as fast as possible. So you need to register for a dental pen, and you do that with the ADEA, American Dental Association. So the second section is the academic history. So that has 4 subsections, and it basically uses the transcript request form to request all the official transcripts from any institution that you have attended, whether it's community college or university. The portal that AADSAS basically is the middleman between you and the school. So it will basically match the official transcripts, your grades, with the application and make sure everything matches up. And Please pay close attention to every detail that you enter, like grade-wise and your coursework, the title, and what the course is qualified as. For me, I had trouble with the sciences. Let's say psychology, for example, is it considered a science or not? It depends on the syllabus description for that specific class. So I was able to Google a document that had a breakdown of what each subject is considered as, if it's a science or a non-science. So I would look into that. Again, most of this information, you can find it easily on Google. It just, I put it all together for you in one place. So being the middleman, AADSAS offers a professional transcript entry, the PTE service, and it's for $70. But why would you do that? Like, it's just extra dollars amounts that you are inputting in, whereas you can input that information yourself. So trust yourself, take it slow, enter one grade at a time, one course at a time, and I think they take like 1 to 2 weeks to finish it. It slows down the process and it costs you money. Supporting information, there's 5 subsections. So make a strong personal statement. That's the key word. Make a statement when you're writing your personal statement. Under the supporting information is where you request your letter of recommendations or letter of evaluations. And what I recommend is when you walk up to a professor or advisor or supervisor, or you email them, ask them specifically, word for word, would you be able to write me a strong or supportive letter of recommendation? Because not that anyone has a bad intention for you, but if you come to me and ask me, can you please write me a supportive letter of recommendation? I trust you and I respect you, and if I can't, I will tell you, sorry, I can write you an okay letter of recommendation, but not a supportive one. Hopefully that makes sense. Request letter of evaluations at least 2 months before applying. So by the time you're watching this, it might be a little bit later if you want to apply like on June 1st, like submit your application, but it's never too late. So make sure you send them. I have been getting some pre-dental students that are very upset that some professors or supervisors promised them that they will write a letter of recommendation for them, and they bailed, they flaked on them. And I don't think that's right, especially in these difficult times. But that's what I'm saying, like, make sure the person that you ask, you could 100% trust them that they're gonna follow up and come through with a supportive letter of recommendation. So the last part of the application portion of the AADSAS is the program material, okay? So the reason why it's a question mark is it all depends on how many schools you wanna apply to. If you wanna apply to one, then it's one. Review each dental school's requirements and supplemental information. And you need to designate the dental schools you want to receive the AADSAS application. So before submitting, you need to select, okay, I want to send the application to this, I want to wait on that school, and so forth. I'm going to go a little bit more into detail later on in the presentation. So I have a footnote here. Before starting your application, be sure you read the application instructions, okay? Because if anything, like I said, if anything goes wrong or you make a mistake, 100% of the time it's gonna cost you money, and the process is expensive as it is.
Okay, so for personal info, to go more in depth on the 8 categories there. So the release statement is just kind of like saying that you agree or you accept the ADEA AADSAS, like the format. And then the second one would be like biographical information. So we'll just ask you like your name, your birthday, where are you from, and then contact information would also be like, again, like your email, your phone number, stuff like that. And then for citizenship information, you'd have to like, you know, say like if you're a citizen and stuff like that. And that cannot, like, that can only be updated. And then environmental factors, again, that's what we talked about before. If you do have something that you would like to share that is not part of your personal statement, this would be a very good section to include it. So you can add anything about like a family situation, a disadvantaged situation, like your childhood residency, high school situation, maybe someone passed away in your family and it caused you to, you know, be behind on a couple things, any relatives in dentistry. So just take this opportunity to put it all in there. And then it also asks you about your parents and guardians, like their names and stuff like that. And then your race and ethnicity. And some other information. It asks for your dent pin, which each person has to do one if you're doing this application. So you'd have to put that in there. And it asks if you're like a military personnel, how many languages do you speak? And some other things that it also asks is about like manual dexterity. If you're a previous applicant, have you applied before? Or is this your first time? So just be aware of like the personal information. It should go by pretty quickly, except if you're writing that environmental factor disadvantage essay, then that's the one thing that's going to be hard about the site.
Okay, I'd like to add a couple things. So for this, like I said, the character count for the disadvantage statement is 4,500 characters. And like I said, think of it as a personal statement beta or 2.0. And the manual dexterity, so make sure you guys talk in depth about your manual dexterity. And they only give you 600 characters. So be concise. But if you play musical instruments, if you, let's say, how many words per minute you can type or stuff like that, anything that you do with your hands, talk about it. The other health professionals. So I think we have someone in our class that was in medical school for a year and then they didn't like it or whatever happened, and then they ended up coming into dental school. So that would be considered under this section. Also something like if you, let's say, was in undergrad and then you had a year off, you had an emergency, a death in the family, you traveled or whatever happened, then that would be an educational interruption. So any gap year, that would count as an educational interruption. And also in my case, I was a reapplicant. So previous applicant, I talked about how I was a previous applicant. And I think if you say yes to that, it has a box where you input all your schools that you applied to the previous cycle. The AADSAS portal likes to collect information for their own records, not per se to share with the school. So some of this stuff, I think they just want to know how many reapplicants are applying this cycle. Throughout the rest of the presentation, you're going to see some asterisks or the above symbol. Make sure I have a footnote up there. So if it's double asterisks, it can be edited once submitted. So once you submit the application, these parts of the application can be edited. It's done. Or if it has the up symbol, then you can only update or add more information to that. So for example, like if you volunteered at another organization or whatever, you can update and add a new organization, but you can edit whatever you already submitted. So talk about which high school you attended and what year you graduated, and colleges and university attended. So report all institutions attended, regardless if what program you're applying to and how they relate. Like for me, I had associate degree in arts and sciences, and I added that. So it doesn't have to be anything like medical or science related, or a bachelor. So if you got an associate, include that. So whether the coursework was completed there, was transferred to another institution. So basically, like let's say for me, I attended community college for 4 years, and then I switched to a university. So in order to apply for a university, I needed to transfer my transcripts from community college into the university. And now from both the community college and the university into this portal, so that dental school can see how much coursework I have completed. So also, if you have any questions, reach out to each institution. Also report each institution once, okay? So let's say for me, I took a gap at UCR or whatever, and I came back. I'm not gonna include it twice. So each school, it doesn't matter if you attended it over 8 years, you only include it once. Every institution you add, you will get a download transcript request form. Send that to that institution's registrar's office. So this is something that is very important. Once you get this stuff out of the way before you do anything that's more complex as far as like school specific or secondaries. So for this, let's say I went to a university, I download the transcript form and I send it to that registrar's office. I email it to them or I mail it, depends on what their preference is, but try to get it to them as fast as possible, because the faster it gets to them, the faster they send your official transcript to the portal, the faster the portal uploads it on the AADSAS application. And I'll show you where it says like all your documents and if they're still in transit or if they're uploaded on there or not. Transcript entry. So enter all your coursework. Okay, if you passed, if you failed, or if you repeated course for each institution you attend after high school. So make sure any course that you took, make sure you include that. Like I said, the professional transcript entry, $70, save the $70, add $20 more to it, and then apply to another school to your application. So I think you can use the money wisely. And I have a link at the bottom for a document, basically an Excel sheet that is used for AMCAS, which is the portal that we use for medical school. So it's very similar to dental school. So you go in there, and then I'll show you an example of it later on. And you go in there, and then you input all your courses, your grades, whether it was quarter, semester, and how many units that course was worth. And that will generate an approximate GPA per year. Let's say your freshman year GPA, you got this, and then it generates even postdoc or master's degree GPA. So it's a very handy tool to use. Standardized testing. So self-report your unofficial DAT score and to report when you plan to take it. So let's say you took it before the application, like your score is ready to go. Let's say you got a 25 on your bio or whatever, then you input that in. And again, it's supposed to match to whatever the printout was that you got. When you register for the DAT, this is very important, guys, pay attention. So when you register for the DAT, send your test scores to all 67 schools, okay? Because if you send it to the 5 schools that you want to apply to, and then you're like, oh my God, I want to apply to 5 more, then you're going to end up paying a fee for every school. And this is where they get you. They want you to spend money. So save your money and select all the schools. It's not going to cost you anything. It's a flat fee that you pay for taking the DAT. Also, something that I'd like to add to this to the DAT is you can submit the application before taking the DAT. It just, you have to input, you have to let the schools know and the portal know when you plan on taking the DAT. Let's say I scheduled to take it, let's say July 1st, okay? And I'm not able to take it for whatever reason. I postpone it, I need to go on the portal and then update it. And that's what I mean by you can only update certain things, you can't delete anything. And once you do that, you take the DAT, you're happy with your score or whatever result you get, take a photocopy of that score and send it to every school. Some schools will not prefer it or not like it or be annoyed by it. But the fact that you let them know, again, some schools keep record of who emails them and how often. So if you're in close contact with them, like on a weekly basis or monthly basis, then they know you, your name is in the system. And that's what I say, like, it's not going to hurt anybody. The score is there, and most likely the official score is going to be very reflective of the unofficial. It rarely changes. So let them know once you walk out of that testing center. So this is what I was talking about, the AMCAS GPA Calculator. So here I have inputted my all of the freshman year at community college grades, and it calculates the hours, and then here is the points earned, and then here you select B, C, P, M, the biology, chemistry, physics, or math. You select, you check mark, basically these are check marks if that qualifies as a science, and then here check mark if it was semester or quarter system. So a couple other things that I'd like to point out. So here I failed math 105, which is college algebra, and I got an F in it. And then I retook it and I got an A in it. So that shows growth, it shows improvement. And at the end of the day, I don't have a choice. I have to report it. Even if I failed it, repeated, or whatever, you have to report all your coursework. And like right here, it shows freshman year, it shows my total hours, my science GPA, my overall GPA. And then if you add freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, master's degree and all that, and it will give you a composite GPA at the very end. And it also shows you diagrams and graphs. So the diagrams and the graphs that it shows you if you have an upward trend or if you're fluctuating or not.
So you know what they call the person who graduates with the lowest in his dental school class?
A dentist.
A dentist. Graduate, we're all gonna move on. We all have hiccups. Like, I can't sit here and say I got all A's in undergrad. Like, no one, I mean, maybe someone did, but like, it's just like, it's life. Stuff happens, you move on, you learn, you grow. It just all has to be on there. Do not, if you failed a class or got a C or whatever, you have to include it. Do not include that, because then they're gonna catch it, and if they catch it, then like, that's really bad. Like, you have to include every single thing that's gonna show up on your transcript. So now I wanted to talk about the transcript matching form. So when you're done with your application, it will release these forms if you went to community college and like a 4-year college, or if you just went to 1 college, or if you went to 3, it will release these transcript matching forms, and it will be 1 per college. And you'll have to like download that form and then send it to your university so that they can release your official transcripts and send them back to the ADEA/AADSAS website. So you'd have to do that for every university you attended, because they would need an official transcript from each university.
So like right now, because of the COVID-19 thing that's going on, I don't think you can go in person because some of the schools are closed. So I think now they're accepting it via email. So I would check with your with every school that you attended and see how they prefer to go about this transcript matching form. So the supporting information. So like I said, this has 5 subsections. So evaluations, aka letter of recommendations, okay? So maximum 4 letter of recommendations that you need. So each need to be written by 1 person. And the alternative that you can go about it with the evaluations is you can have 1 committee letter and packet, and you need 1 individual evaluation in addition to that committee letter. You can edit and delete requests that are in the requested or accepted status, and it will tell you like right next to the evaluations whether it was requested or accepted or submitted. But once a request is completed and submitted by your professor or supervisor, you can't edit it, there's no takebacks. Make sure that you get the letter of recommendations from someone that you trust. So regarding the evaluations or the letter of recommendations, at the end of this section, there's a waiver of evaluation, okay? So it reads, I waive my right of access to this evaluation. Basically says that I agree that I will not see this letter of recommendation, because the way it's set up between the schools and whoever writes the letter of recommendation is for you to not see it. It's supposed to be private. It's supposed to be between that writer and that institution. It's confidentiality. So if you see it, you're breaching confidentiality. So make sure you input yes, because I think schools will look at you the wrong way if you say why. It's kind of like, why does he want to see or she want to see this letter of recommendation? Do they not trust the person that wrote it, or do they don't think that they wrote him a supportive letter of recommendation? So again, ask your supervisor or instructor for a supportive letter of recommendation, and walk away and give them all the trust that they deserve. At the end of this evaluation section, it also asks you, and you have to check mark it, permission to contact references and permission for schools to contact references. So check mark that, because again, you don't have anything to hide. Experiences. So these experience boxes, it has a text box. It only takes up to 600 characters. So be concise. So each of the experience, they basically have a definition button that you can click on, and it will tell you like the duties and what each category of an experience is considered as, and their definition. For example, academic enrichment, the dental experience, employment, extracurricular activity, research, or volunteers. So you pick whatever you want. There's going to be a lot of overlap. So for me, I was working as a dental assistant and I was volunteering as a dental assistant. So of course, whatever organization I volunteered with as a dental assistant, that is volunteering. And whatever job I worked as an employment, meaning getting paid, then I will enter that as an employment, because it will tell you like each section, it will tell you if it was compensated or not. And if it's compensated, that doesn't count as community service because you're getting paid for it. So under the experience section, it gives you 6 stars, meaning preferences. And you basically, like how I have here, the most important, and it will tell you 1 out of 6 or 6 out of 6. So let's say you have 10 experiences listed or more. Pick the ones that mean the most to you. Pick the ones that when you get an interview that you can elaborate on. Let's say you were playing guitar for 10 years and you volunteered at a homeless shelter and you go and play for them. That is community service. And at the same time, it's manual dexterity. 2 birds, 1 stone. So that's what I'm saying, like, be concise and try to include as much information as you can, because you're trying to idolize yourself or present yourself in the best light, and that comes across as an acceptance, because that's the goal. You're trying to get accepted. Okay, so try to interlink as much as you can one experience with manual dexterity or volunteering with manual dexterity and so forth. I have employment and I have the date and my title there. Do you have anything to add, Sylvia?
Yeah, for experiences, I wanted to say, I know you mentioned a lot about starring the 6, but personally, I think I had like over 20 experiences, just as many experiences as you have from, like, I had experiences in the dental field all the way back from high school, just right, anything that had, and not just dental, I'm saying like any work you did, like I did tutoring that has obviously nothing to do with dental, but like, so anything that was an experience of working or volunteering at various places, just include anything you have. And personally, the way I kept track of all of this was I had a Word, there was a Word doc and there was also an Excel doc, because for Excel, I would always add in the hours I did at each volunteer event, because when this application opens, you're not gonna remember back in like 2012 what you did. So by having it all in one concise document, it just made it easy for me to go back and be like, oh yeah, I did like 50 hours, or I did 100, or I did 2, you know, so rather than you lie or try to estimate, just having all this information before you even start the application would be very ideal.
I couldn't agree more. And then I need to add something else to that. So for example, like for me, I was a Sunday school teacher. So whatever religious affiliation you are part of, that counts as an experience, because you are mentoring. You are, it's an academic enrichment for you and for these students that you're helping. So reach out to your mentor, your friends in dental school, or whomever, and ask them, is this considered something that I need to mention as an experience? Again, I don't think they have a maximum. So if you have 50 experiences that you have done, by all means, add it. For me, like I said, I have my own side gig or business that I do live photography, and I take pictures. I used to take graduation pictures, and I feel like that helped me, because dentistry is moving more towards the digital age now. And I talked about it, I'm like, how like detailed I am with my pictures and how much editing I do after the fact, and it kind of builds an eye for detail and aesthetics. And these are keywords that you guys need to include in the 600. Aesthetic, detail,
Dirty.
Yeah, all that. So keywords, these are the words that they're trying to highlight in your application. So if you include these words in good context to your story, I don't see why they wouldn't accept an applicant such as yourself.
Okay, so to continue on with the supporting information, so you can have achievements as well. So this too is 600 characters, and you star your top 4 in this. So personally, I remember for mine, I had like research, any scholarships, any awards you won, any sports awards, publications. There's so many things that could count as achievements. So any of those that you have, possibly add them. And then the top 4 can be starred, and those would be like the top 4. But if you have 20, sure, include all 20. There's nothing wrong with that. But you just have to star the top 4. And again, remember, it's 600 characters for each space that you can talk about. As for licenses, so you can add that you're like an RDA, CBA, your CPR, radiology. There's so many things that can count as a license. So any license that you have, you can include. And you can include as many as you want. And for this one, you don't start it or anything. And then for the personal statement, which we always address, that's 4,500 characters. And it's just basically the prompt is, please explain why you want to pursue a dental career. So that should be something you've already hopefully you've been working on before you start the application, and have had a lot of editing done. I know for my part, I did a lot of editing before you consider submitting that one. So obviously this is probably the most crucial part of this application. So this is your time to shine at anything you want and anything and everything, but just be careful that it's 4,500 characters. So
I have a couple things to add to this section. So under the achievements, okay? So let's say you got a scholarship for $200. It's still a scholarship included. Let's say you got one for $2,000, then that's a scholarship. So it doesn't matter how much the amount is or what type of an award or achievement. For sports, for example, a lot of you are athletes. Talk about you placed first in this sporting event, because all of this shows leadership, it shows commitment. And these are things that they look for in an applicant. It's not just grades, GPA, and DT. These are the side things that make you stand out aside from anyone else.
Yeah, it's kind of like when you applied to university, you had to do this. This is just kind of doing it again.
Yep, it just for a doctorate degree this time.
Yeah.
Another thing that I would like to elaborate on is for the licenses. So let's say you're a RDH, registered dental hygienist, or a license for roofing or photography, or whatever license you can get or have, include that, because it shows diversity, and that's something that dental school looks at, diversity. Some people that are applying for dental school already finished their doctorate program in another school. Some of them are already like physicians. I know some people that were vets that applied to dental school. So these are licenses. So I think these are stuff that make you stand out. As far as the personal statement goes, be very specific with your personal statement and like write more. Like let's say instead of 4,500, I would say write twice as that. And then you guys heard of pruning. I'm a neuroscience major, so I use that word all the time. So pruning is basically cutting down or snipping, and you prune down your personal statement. Cut it down and refinement. So pruning is a type of neuro refinement. Basically just go for longer essay and trim it down. And when you're writing and proofreading it, for me, I believe I had mine peer viewed about 30 to 50 times. And on an airplane, on my way to my interview, I found 2 typos in there. And after like 20 people or more looked at it, I found it. And I'm like, by then it's too late. And I kind of laughed. I made fun of myself because I'm like, I cannot be perfect, okay? But some things that you can do to avoid your personal statement from standing out in the wrong way is using caps where it doesn't need to be. We're using don'ts and can'ts. You need to spell it out. Do not, cannot, and all these apostrophes if it doesn't belong. And this is where you need, like for me, I think I had one of my friends who has a doctorate or a master's in English. That was the final person that proofread my personal statement, and I think it served me well because how he looked at it. Have doctors look at it, have lawyers look at it, have different people. If English is not your first language, have people from your own culture look at it. Some people, let's say, I'm Egyptian, I'm gonna have a American Egyptian or an Egyptian that was born in Egypt look at it. Or someone that was born here that English was their first language and Arabic was their second, or for Spanish or whatever language you speak, because they know what I mean by what I wrote, but they think that I can write it better, if that makes any sense.
So this is the last part for program materials that people always get it confused and think it's like the supplemental, but it's really not. This is just the part where each school that you selected will show up in the end and it will say, oh, program materials. And we're going to show you another picture about what we're talking about right now. But basically, it will explain that each school, what are the prerequisites for it. So some schools have specific prerequisites for some classes. And then, so again, this is not the secondary application. This is just more for the program material. So over here, this would be like a program material. This is for ASDO. It will show you home and it will explain like when it's due, the deadline for it, more about the school. This would be at the home side. For the prerequisite side, it will show you what classes are prereq. So like for ASDO, biochemistry was a prereq and physics was a prereq. And it explains how many credits, so that like translates to how many like courses or how many quarters you had to have taken in order for that class to be like, so you get that like requirement met. So just make sure when you go through the whole application and you select the schools. Personally, I applied between my junior and senior year, so I hadn't graduated yet. So some of the prerequisites were not done. I just let them know that I'm in the process of getting them done. So this is the time where you explain that, or this is the time where if you're someone who already graduated, you should hopefully have them all done. And if they're not done, then you can go back maybe to community college. If it's a prereq, the school is not going to accept you unless you have the prereq.
Something to add to that, under this section or under your coursework, you can either put your courses as completed, in progress, or planned. So let's say you are graduating class of 2020. Congrats, by the way, virtual graduation. If you're graduating this year and you're taking a couple of community college classes or online classes, after you graduate, filling out the application, you put that as planned. Or once you start the program, you put in progress, and then after that, completed. So a side note, for ASDO, they accept anatomy and physiology online. So you have to make sure that the syllabus reflects what they want and the requirement, but I know some people that got in taking anatomy and physiology online. So make sure you contact ASDO admissions, and whatever other school you have any questions, contact that school's admissions. And that's where the book, the Guide into Dental School, it has the admissions emails, who to contact, their names, everything. So here is where you add a program at your schools. So you can either select the schools by all the schools or the ones in the US, Canada, and then throughout the process, like post, I think October, November, December, you will see some schools that already met their deadline, and you don't want to apply there. I don't even think the portal lets you apply to these programs because it's locked out. But you can just play with these toggle options and filter your search. This is a book that I mentioned, ADEA's Official Guide to Dental Schools. So I use this book to basically create this document right here. So here I have a abbreviation for the school's name, the name, whether it's public, private,
or private state related. It's basically an in-betweener.
ECS, its estimated class size, academic average, perceptual ability, total science, my science GPA, and the total GPA. So here I'm going to use ASDO for the sake of the argument. So ASDO ATSU Arizona. So our class size is 76, and here they accept 56 out of state. Okay. Here the academic average, it's 17 to 20, that's the range, and the average is 19.5, and so forth for all the other sections. For example, for the science GPA, our range is from 2.75 to 4.05, but our average is 3.28. Okay, so keywords when you're narrowing down your school search, and I'm going to make a video about that, is look at the range. So the range means someone got into ASDO with a 2.75. Meanwhile, someone got into ASDO with a 4.05. If you fall in between that range, hopefully on the higher end, then I say ASDO is a school that you should apply to. Hopefully that makes sense. And that's what I did making this document using that book. And I believe it narrowed down all the schools that I feel comfortable paying and applying to.
Those are like averages. So don't take this very personal, or don't compare yourself. I know it's very, or it sounds cliche to say that, but don't just look at those numbers and say, oh my God, the average is a 3.3 and I need to have a 3.3 and I have a 3.2, or I'm at a 3.0. Like, it's an average. They're going to look at the whole package. This isn't life or death. So I would just say, if you're in that range and you feel confident and you really want to apply, and maybe the average GPA is a little bit higher than yours, then go for it. Don't be discouraged. I think that's the biggest thing.
If you guys watch my previous video, the first video of the Pay Forward series with Dr. Eden, he talks about how your entire application, you as an applicant, think of yourself as the climate, okay? It goes up and down, things happen, climate change and all that stuff. Whereas your DET score or your GPA, that is today's weather. That is your stats. It doesn't mean everything, and it shouldn't. It's what you have to provide as an overall applicant. And dental schools look at you comprehensively, and you need to get that through your head. It's easier said than done. I went through all this application process twice, okay? I think if you have that mentality, it will help you not stress out. It's easier said than done, but just try to relax and play the game and present yourself as best as you can, and you have nothing to hide. Bouncing off of the prerequisites that we talked about. So this is a document that wasn't around when me and Sylvia applied. I think this is something that was recently done, and I think it's godsend because
very helpful.
It's like the best thing ever. So the document is titled Participating Dental Schools Required and Recommended Courses. Okay, so I'm gonna walk through a little bit of it really quick. So it has anatomy, and it has all the schools in alphabetical order. I mean, what else you want? So it has anatomy for ASDO. So I believe the first one was ASDO ATSU. It has anatomy. So recommended is green box and check marked. Microbiology, physiology, and that's it. So ASDO doesn't have much recommendation. Whereas for a university like Boston, it has like all the check marks and highlighted in green. And here it has like additional information that you need to look at. So I would definitely download this and use it to the best and fullest of your abilities, because it's going to save you so much time. The application, all right? So it costs money. So the total fees, it adds up, and it adds up in hundreds, okay? It's crazy. So the best advice that I can give you as someone that has been through the ringer twice, because in order to submit your application to one school, okay? So I know for me, finances was a struggle. I was working, I took a break to study for the DAT 3 times, and I had a lot of interruptions in my income, but I had money saved. But eventually, by the second time I applied to dental school, I ran out of money. So either you can borrow money, you can take a loan, talk to your friends or family. This is a time where you're not supposed to have any pride. It's not needed right now. This is you trying to get into dental school. So what I did was apply to one school because that was the minimum requirement. And every week I would add another school, 2 schools, 3 schools. I would save up every pay period a little bit more money into the application and so forth. So I think that was my strategy, and it served me well. So if you choose to do it that way, be strategic about how you do it, okay? So if we go back a couple slides here, I was strategic. And like I said, I forgot to point it out, because here at the end of every name, I have the deadline for every school. So I would pick the deadline for the school that is coming up on the horizon, like in a week or 2, and get that submitted right away. So let's say UCSF, like the deadline I believe was October 15th. And for me, I didn't make that deadline. I applied and I basically just put the money in the trash, because they're not going to even look at your application. And I'm not just UCSF, I'm saying other schools as well, because it's all deadlines. If you don't meet the deadlines, it's game over. And I know finances is an issue, but there is a way around it. There is a way, and that's why I'm making these videos, because I did it and I made mistakes and I learned from it, and now I'm teaching you from my own mistakes. Do you have anything to add, Sylvia?
Yeah, I would also just say, personally, my strategy was apply early. If you have your letters of rec in before June, get your personal statement, hopefully get your finances in check. So personally, I just went in and just did all the schools at the same time. So, and just apply early. I know everyone says it, I know it's cliche, but trust me, it does help. Even if your DAT isn't in there, apply and then add the DAT score. Just don't wait. You're gonna have better chances if you apply in June.
I applied twice, and the second time I didn't learn my lesson. I still managed somehow to apply late. And that's why I'm making these videos, because I'm kind of upset at myself that the second time I had my chance and I still managed to apply late. I delayed my DAT and stuff happened. And that's why it's called rolling admission. I don't know if anybody went to a Black Friday sale or whatever, but for the sake of the argument, since we're in COVID-19, everybody was at the store trying to get as much toilet paper, sanitizer, cleaning supplies, and all that stuff. This is what the application cycle is like. Everybody just trying to get grabs. I want to get into that school, I'm applying early. So the early bird gets the worm, right? So if you guys see here, this is a download button that you need to click. And once you download it, you will generate something that looks like this. And this right here is your application PDF. This is what the dental school prints out and views and what the admission committee looks at, okay? So it has basically your information, and this was my best friend when I was going to an interview. So what I did is downloaded this file for every school that I had an interview at, and I reviewed it over and over again. And that's where and how I found my typos and my personal statement and my achievements and whatever like small essays I had to write. This is where I found my typos, because I'm not used to that format. What I was used to is a text box. And that's what I say, like, even if you see things differently, like what Sylvia recommended is to type out all your experiences and all that and print it out and proofread it, annotate it, whatever you want, and then go back and edit it, because I think that will be a more effective way to go about it. My PDF was about 30 pages long or more, because whatever achievements or award or certificates or licenses that I had, I uploaded the images, photocopies of it on there. So at the end of the day, the admissions committee looks at Sameh's application and says, oh my God, like this guy has like 40 pages. What does he have in there? And once that kind of catches their eye, and I literally included all my radiology certification, my prophylaxis certification, all the certifications I included on there. And I think that kind of like makes you stand out. And this is your time to shine. Put in the time and kind of strategically apply for dental school. So the status of the application, like what I said, is once you send that transcript form to the registrar's office, they print out your official transcript, stamp it, and then send it over to AADSAS. AADSAS will update it, and here the drop-down menu will tell you like all the schools that you applied to, and then here it's arrived. Okay, so that's one thing that you're done with. Okay, you don't have to look at it again. Evaluations, requested, accepted, completed. You're done. Standardized test, that's a DET, received 1, and if you retook it in that time frame after 3 months, then it will say received 2, and so forth. So my programs here, UCLA and ASDO, under the application status, it will say it's still in progress or verified. The decision status is received application or under review or withdrew before action or accepted. And then again, you can download the PDFs from here as well. So best of luck to everybody. And remember to pay it forward. And this is honestly why I'm creating this video series, because me and my friends, Sylvia, and then other people that are going to come on for other parts of this series, that is our goal. The diagram is very self-explanatory. Just pay it forward. And if you find this video and future videos helpful, make sure you share it with your friends, because this is not a competition. You need to be a competitive applicant, but you don't need to be cutthroat at the same time. Just be humble, work together, because the best thing is getting to dental school with your BFF, your best friend, because that means that you already have someone to support you through that, because it's going to be 4 long years. And I think it's the best thing ever to have someone such as Sylvia and my other friends to have as support and help me and agree to come on board for us to make this project together, because it's all a collaborative effort. Do you have anything to add, Sylvia?
I just want to say good luck, guys. You got this. And our contact info was actually in the beginning of this video. So if you have any questions, you can always reach out through email or, Facebook, Instagram, how to help you with anything. So good luck, good luck, good luck, good luck.
So this is my contact information on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, you name it, YouTube. If you find this information helpful, or if you have any questions, I'll try my best to answer all your questions as fast as I can. But please leave them in the comment section. If you have any recommendations for future videos, I'm open for suggestions. And honestly, it's been a blessing doing this series with y'all, and pay it forward. That's all I ask of you. I don't need any money in return, and I don't need anything in return. Just help someone else. Thank you. Pay it forward.
Bye.
Bye.
There's so much strength in you and me.